Welcome to the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. I'm your host, live from Tampa, Sal Guardo. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, live from Youngstown, Ohio, Dan Kopp, live from Columbus, Ohio, Kurt Hess, and live from Akron, Ohio, Kyle Searle. We are extremely proud to bring you the first ever postseason Youngstown State Penguin podcast show. Now, as you know, the Youngstown State Penguins have now clinched the playoffs and have been invited to the postseason for the first time since 2016. So we are very excited to get into that and talk playoff football. But first, before we dive into that and recap Murray State, as always, we are on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. We are available anywhere podcasts are found. And as always, we are YouTube live. Log on, get in there, get involved in the conversation, ask your questions, make your comments, and make your shout outs. And Kyle Searle is monitoring that chat, and we'll make sure you are heard. Please like, subscribe, and share us. As always, we're trying to get the word out there for all Youngstown State Penguin fans, alumni, and family to be involved and come together on the show. But first, again, we had a very victorious game against Murray State. That we will recap very quickly before we get into the fun part, which is the postseason talk. First, for those of you who watched, I don't know if it was an ESPN Plus thing or a video for all, but if you were watching on TV, it looked like the camera was had some drunk camera people, which made me very motion sickness. So it was one of those watch from a distance, and I wouldn't say the announcers, Kurt Herbstreit was not on the call, to put it nicely. But for those of you who watched, the Youngstown State Penguins started off pretty nice. A 7-yard touchdown pass from Mitch Davison put the Penguins up 7-0. Murray State answers 7-7. Second quarter, Murray State actually takes the lead with a field goal, 10-7. Youngstown State answers, Mitch Davison with another just 3-yard pass, but the extra point is missed. So that puts the Penguins up 13-10 instead of 14-10. Youngstown State then answers again. Bryce Oliver on a 14-yard touchdown catch from Mitch Davison puts us up 20-10 right before the half, and that will be your halftime score. Third quarter, fairly boring. Each team scores a touchdown. Rushton scores a 3-yard touchdown to put the Penguins up 27-10. Murray State will answer 27-17, making it a 10-point game going into the fourth quarter. But Bryce Oliver scores again a touchdown pass from Mitch Davison, making it 34-17. And as I don't want to say boring, but as interesting as this game may or may not have been, Youngstown State wins 34-17 in what many of us thought could have been the last game of the season. However, Sunday comes and we come to find out that, as Kurt so nicely put on Instagram, the show must go on. Love that, by the way, Curdy. And we'll actually kick it off with you. What are your thoughts on the offense, QB play, and just overall that performance against Murray State?
Yeah, not too much specifically I want to get into because I know we have a lot to talk about today. Great job just offensively going out there. And I don't know if Searle or Moss said it last week, just it's a business trip. Take care of what we need to take care of. Not sure what the road trip's going to be like. Not sure what Murray State's going to bring us. Had to respect our opponent definitely last week because, Searle and I were watching the game in my front room in Columbus. And, this is these Murray State's last game. These seniors, these guys who are going out there and playing, they know my season's done after this game. They're going all out. So for us offensively to score enough points, go out there, win the game, take care of business, and put our lives basically into the committee's hands, which is what we all kind of felt. We were definitely thinking the last couple of weeks we had a pathway to get in. We don't necessarily think we helped ourselves with some really strong showings, which kind of, probably left us as a confusing selection for some people. But shout out to Bryce Oliver. 25 touchdowns in 2 seasons is insanely good. He's an explosive player. He's somebody that, we feed, it's similar to, being a Bengals fan. It's Jamar Chase. If you get this guy the ball, whether it's a yard gain, whether it's a 6-yard gain, we have an opportunity to make some big plays if we're getting the ball in this guy's hands. So good job, Mitch, feeding him the last couple of seasons. Congratulations, Bryce. That's huge, man. Keep it up. Go out there. And I think you tied the record with 25. Is that Ferranti who's got the record for career? I'd have to go back and check who has that career record, but 25 in 2 seasons is insane. Great job, man. Go out there and break it and have that record all by yourself. So offensively, let's have a good week of practice and get back out there.
Nice. Dan, you were not on the episode last week. We were talking about how the last time we were at Murray State, Frank Beamer and Jim Tressa were on the sidelines for each. Wouldn't be shocked if you were at that game too. You're the only one alive on this podcast to know of such last time we played at Murray State. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, I was at the Jamboree last week, so missed being with you guys. But got to give a shout out to my man DJ Moss. I think I lost my job. He said this was my last week. So the Moss man is the best. We all love DJ, and appreciate him stepping up, and he did a great job. And I've known him for a long time, so loved coaching him and being around him. So yeah, it was. I got to echo some of Kurt's comments. I mean, what more can you say about Bryce Oliver? I mean, there's a guy who's just really in that game. He was. I don't think they had a guy that could cover him, right? I mean, they could have done anything. He was just a guy that was different than everybody else out there, which was good to see. Don't want to go crazy about the thoughts other than the fact that we ran the ball really well. You guys know how I feel about that this time of year, and Tyshawn King was exactly what we brought him here for, to be that kind of bell cow in a game. And, what he rushed for 152 yards. So, I mean, he was just, a beast out there. I thought it was a great road win. We seem to be now we're learning to win on the road, which I think will carry forward. I watched the game on TV. Like Sal said, I had some motion sickness there, as that camera was all over the place at times. But that's got to be a tough place to play. I've never been there. Sal, I was just a young kid when Beamer and Tress were coaching against each other. But I think that says a lot about both programs, that you have 2 Hall of Fame coaches that were once there. So to go in that stadium and win there, like you guys have said, that team was playing for just some senior pride. And, we kind of controlled that game other than a couple of moments. But we went and did what we were supposed to do, which was win the game. And, I think we dominated the line of scrimmage. I'm kind of anxious to hear what Kyle says about that from a defensive line standpoint, how we held them in check on certain things. And, a win is a win, especially on the road. I'm hoping we came out of the game healthy. I'm sure you guys saw where Tyshawn King at the end of the game was kind of helped off the field. I don't know enough to know if he's okay. I sure hope he is, but maybe you guys have some insight on that. But man, I was just happy we won the game and ran the ball the way we did, because you're going to have to be able to run it when it's November and you're in the playoffs, and December as well. So that's all I got.
And on the defensive line, I can't remember if they jumped off sides or not, but I know Coach Searle's going to let them know if they did or not. So go ahead, Searle.
Oh, so from what I saw, this team the last 2 weeks has been pretty good with the pre-snap penalties. So kudos to my guys. I know I've been extremely hard on them for that. That is one of my things. If I was a position coach, I'd be hurting some kids' feelings. I don't know. I'd probably be getting sent to anger management like Cochran or something. Anyways, let me just give a quick shout out to those Murray State seniors. I think they were put in a pretty unfair position coming into a conference like the Missouri Valley, but they really left it all out there. I think it was the first drive of the game with the fake punt, just emptying the playbook on us, and that's what they should do. Just try and have some fun. They weren't playing for anything. We obviously were. So to get into that, 49 yards rushing on the day for Murray State. That's absolute dominant defensive line, front seven work right there. Where we can improve is a secondary, and we've said all season that I think that is a position where we need to improve on our defense, and it's a tough position to play, tough defensive scheme to plan for, but overall I think the defense played pretty well. Gave up a total of 300 yards, but like I said, those guys were just going for broke, throwing everything at us, probably not playing to their current, statistics or whatever. And 2 sacks on the day. Probably could have seen some more from that in terms of production, but held them to 2 for 9 on third downs, 1 for 3 on fourth downs. So really can't really ask for a whole much more. But Murray State did get in the red zone twice, scored twice. So with a team like Murray State, you would kind of want to see that damage limited, especially going into the postseason here. That stat I feel like is going to be the most crucial to pay attention to on how well this defense performs in the second half of this season. And I do say second half because, I think we got a team built for the long haul. We just have to go out and play our brand of football. And lastly, I don't know if it's ESPN that is in charge of this or if it's Murray State. You got to get someone new on that camera, man. That camera, I'm the dick of the show. That guy was trash. And that's what I'm
your
going to say
first
about
name.
it.
When we almost
Dick
had
Searle.
Patty on the
Dick
show.
Searle, everybody. Cameraman, and it's like it's not even like it was like the corner cameraman. It was like the main cameraman from the side angle of the ball's been out of the quarterback's hands for like 4 seconds. The receiver's downfield, out of shot, and tackled, and then he pans to the receiver.
Right.
Absolute atrocious camera technique.
It reminded me of when I watched my high school on Facebook Live, and there's literally a guy in the booth with his phone trying to put it on, and I'm watching that. That's what it reminded me of. We almost had Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just very not up to par. Anyways, I couldn't wait to just roast that cameraman. I looked at Kurt in like the second quarter. I was like, I'm gonna roast this guy. It's terrible. But once again, hats off to Murray State in a tough position this season. Those seniors probably could have been competitive in their previous conference, but they decided to take a step up to the big boy conference. And they played a couple teams tough, played us tough. I think this program is going to do some pretty good things in the future once they get some recruiting underway. And I don't think it's going to be a chalk it up as a W on the schedule when we see them. So
that's a good point, Kyle, that you made there. Do you know their head coach applied for the YSU job when Bo Pelini got the job? Yeah, Dean.
Oh, wow, no, didn't know that.
Yeah, wow. Dean Hood is his name. He was the coach at Eastern Kentucky, where he made the playoffs 3 times and won the OVC, I think, twice. He's a good coach. But I heard rumors it was if it wasn't Bo, he would have, had Bo not stepped in. But he was definitely a candidate for our job back in 2000, whatever that was, 14, 15, something like that. So I agree with you, Kyle. That's probably the worst they'll be. In the words of Coach Prime, maybe get them now while they're down or something. But
Mike, it's a good thing to be like. Well, you guys all agree. I think we probably are all consensus right here. Is we're losing Western Hill and grabbing Murray State. I feel like that probably upgrades our conference over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's a similar type of program. I think it's going to be a program that's going to really need to focus on getting a good group of kids in a class and developing them, and kind of riding a roller coaster. Going to be good for 2 years, down for a year or so, good for 2 years. I don't think it's going to be like a Dakota team where they're just going to reload every year and be competitive, but I don't know. It's going to be fun to watch them over the years grow into this conference.
Good call.
Yeah, and a point I was going to make about the cameras is we almost had Commish Patty on the show. I was going to make a complaint to her about that and see if there's anything she could have done. But my 2 cents on the game, I think it went exactly how I thought it'd go. If y'all remember right, I projected us to win by 2 touchdowns. We won by 17 points instead of 14. I think I speak for all of us, and maybe not. We were never scared at any point, even when we were down 10-7. We're never scared, but we never blew them out of the water, which is kind of what I projected, that we had full control of the game the whole time. But on the road against a team that, like them, I just had a hard time seeing us really show up and care to blow them out of the water, because it wasn't necessary. And it was a weird atmosphere, and the game was what I thought it was, and it was good enough, because at the end of the day, as long as we didn't lose, that seemed to be enough for the committee. But that's all I have on that. We want to move past Murray State.
We're in, baby.
Yep.
We're in. Curdy, over to you. Instagram. I know you have a couple announcements that you posted on Instagram to share with the pod. Go ahead.
Yeah, just giving a shout out to everybody who's listening. I don't know if you've been able to check the Instagram yet, but posted yesterday, just an idea we all kind of came up with together to get some excitement going around the FCS playoffs. Happy that we're in. It's very proud of the guys getting in the way that they did. Whether we were the 24th team in or whether we were the 20th, it doesn't matter. If you're in, you're in, and that's huge for us. So if you're interested in playing the FCS Bracket Challenge, go to our link in the bio on Instagram. To enter, you need to like and you need to share the post to your story. That way we see that you are actually officially entering. Create your bracket and submit it before Saturday at 11:45 is when we will close the bracket. So before any of the games get started. 3 things can happen if you win. So first thing, we want to give you your own segment on an episode of Youngstown Penguin Podcast. Whether you are an alum, whether you're a fan, whether you're a family member, a parent, or a friend, we want to get you on here and hear your story. We want to connect with our fans, not only our listeners, but you guys deserve to have your stories told, and we want to hear your personal connections to Youngstown State too. So if you win, you get your own segment featured on an episode of Youngstown Penguin Podcast. You get a highlight and a shout out on Instagram, and we will make you an original official Youngstown Penguin Podcast logo t-shirt, and we'll ship it to you for free. So enter that challenge. Go to the link in our bio. It takes a little bit of time to digitally enter. You kind of have to double click on the team that you want. And then that last part where it says title of bracket or title of prediction, just put your name in there or whatever you want to call it. You can put good wins. I think we all kind of did some kind of a personal connection in that line. That was the only confusing line, because usually on these challenges, you pick the champion, right? And then you pick the champion score. So then Moss and I were texting Cyril last night, and Moss and I both put the scores in there, because you had to usually the score is the tiebreaker, right? So Moss and I ended up putting the name of our bracket was the final score that we thought it was going to be. But follow the Instagram, get on that. It's the black and white Youngstown Penguin Podcast logo post. Go to that bio and let's get you on the show. We want to meet you guys and look forward to it.
Yeah, and that's, as a lot of you listeners know, just like March Madness, when you fill out your bracket, it's the same deal. You just pick your team all the way down the bracket, and then we'll see who has the closest to 100% accuracy on that. Thank you for finding that, Kirk, because I was pulling my hair out. I didn't know where it was, but he found the website that has it.
Yeah, it's such a hassle to print off things now and fill them in with pencil and paper,
Well, then we're going to have to hand grade them. That was what I was
and send screenshots and stuff, and nobody's doing that. Come on.
All right. Recapping last week, going through these games real quick, and then we'll put the regular season behind us and move on to bigger and better things. Just to recap, I have 3 overall. Dan has 1, Cyril has 1, and Kurt has 4 wins, as that goes by weeks. How many weeks that they've won. Last week's winner is actually, anyone want to make a guess?
Moss.
Me.
No, it was Moss. You're right. Moss did win. So Moss on his one show joins Dan and Cyril with 1 point. Congrats to you, Moss. I think
Moss.
next time
Moss,
I go to
man.
Vegas, I need to take
Moss,
you with
man.
me, man.
Why do you got
Yeah.
Youngstown State, Murray State, and yellow? That wasn't a push.
That was a push.
No, you had them at
17.
16.5. You had them at 16.5.
See, I'm going to start questioning Sal. I thought I had more.
Sal, what the hell, man?
I thought I had more than one win. I mean, come on. I won the week out of the
I'm
gate.
looking at it right
It was-
here. It's
it was
17 and a half. I mean,
16.5.
I'm sorry, 17. It's right there. Check it up. Check it up.
Check it up.
17.
Check it up.
It was a push.
Dr.
Anyway,
Phil.
Sal's
recapping
Casino
the week
blows.
that was Illinois State at North Dakota and a huge win in your
Birds.
end game. That game was unbelievable to watch. I don't know if you guys saw it. North Dakota wins 22-21, which is a win, gets them in the playoffs, but does not cover, which obviously they did not care. Indiana State at the Southern Illinois Salukis. Salukis win and cover 38-9. As Searle debated with me, Youngstown State at Murray State was a push. The spread was 17, and the Penguins won by exactly 17, was scored 34-17. South Dakota at Western Illinois. Let's pause and play the violin for Western Illinois' last game as a conference member. They will
Shocking
be
result.
not missed.
Shocking.
South Dakota wins and slaughters them as their goodbye. See you later. 48-6. South Dakota wins. Missouri State at South Dakota State. Shockingly, they did decent as South Dakota State wins 35-17. Missouri State wins on the points. North Dakota State is at the Unidome, Northern Iowa, in another win in your end scenario. North Dakota State flexes their muscles and does enough to win, and they cover 48-27, which knocks Northern Iowa out of the postseason run. And that more or less wraps up the regular season. I think we're okay to put that behind us. Anyone have any comments on the weekend that was last weekend?
Oh, sir.
Let's go. Now, let's talk about playoffs. I was really excited this segment to really delete the top 25 because it's now irrelevant. To talk about our playoff chances was a segment that we usually talk about because that is also irrelevant. Your Youngstown State Penguins make the postseason. A few things to recap. They are one of 6 Missouri Valley Football Conference members and make it 6. We have 12 members. We'll be 11 next year, but 12 this year. Half the conference makes it, which is unprecedented and highly respectable. A few notes to talk about this 2014 field. Youngstown State was one of the last 4 to make it in. Mercer, Chattanooga, Sacramento State, and Youngstown State were the last 4 teams in to make the cut. And the 4 bubbles that bursted was Eastern Illinois, UT Martin, UC Davis, and Holy Cross. Therefore, Youngstown State, just for perspective, we will open with Duquesne 5 p.m. Winner, we will move on to Villanova at noon. At Villanova, we win that. We don't know for sure, but we potentially will be rematching the defending South Dakota State champs in the quarterfinals at their place. That would be on December 9th if we win. And then obviously if we move on from that, we will be in the Final Four. So that's sort of where Youngstown State lands. The rest of the conference that made it, Southern Illinois Salukis made it. South Dakota with a number 3 seed overall, which is interesting. South Dakota State is the number 1 overall seed. North Dakota makes it, and North Dakota State make it. So 5 at large, and of course, South Dakota State gets the bid for winning the conference and being the number 1 team in the country. So now that we've kind of recapped the show and what happened, I know you guys, we all watched that 12:30 ESPNU live selection show together, which was electric because, I haven't seen them pick our name since 2016. So question for you guys, and we're going to kick it off to Dan. What sticked out to you the most as far as the selections, the team, the seeds? what kind of, I guess like a pimple stuck out to you, and whether it was in a good way or a bad way that was like, what the hell? Or, that's awesome.
Well, I think you touch on. I was surprised we got 6 teams in. I really was. I mean, I was thinking we were going to have 4, maybe 5. There was a lot of talk here and back in Youngstown. The media was talking. That was the first time I heard that 5 or 6 teams. But I never thought that was going to be possible. So that was the first thing that just jumped out at me. Like, we got 6 teams in. Not to say that. I mean, we all feel, and I think a lot of people do, we have the best conference at the FCS level, but that just really, man, kind of blew me away. And not just because it's us, but anytime you're in the bracket with the defending national champ where they put us, soon as Villanova went up, and they kind of mentioned about regions for the committee, I saw Villanova and I said, well, there's Philadelphia, we're here. And then when they put Duquesne up, I said, we're next. Because I knew they were going to put us and Duquesne and our travel. That kind of just laid out like I thought, kind of had a gut feeling and then there's Villanova. So, and I think we're in that hard ass draw because, I mean, if we win 2 games, we got to play, to be the man, you got to beat the man, as they say. So I kind of was a little bit pissed off about that we got put there, that we've got to play a team potentially, which we all know we want to play them, but to get them there and not potentially, Sal, as you mentioned, if we win 2 games, we got them. But that's just my quick view of, wow, we got 6 teams in and look where we got placed. And that's typical NCAA. Put us where teams don't have to travel too far, save a few bucks. They knew we were going to put up the $50K to host the game, right? I mean, did that surprise you guys? I mean, we're hosting a team that was an automatic qualifier. With all due respect to Duquesne, they probably didn't want to put that money up. And I don't know how many seats they hold there at Duquesne. Do you guys know? I know it's not a big stadium right there in Pittsburgh.
I want to say 6K.
Yeah, I was going to say 6K, something like that. So, I mean, it's kind of typical what they did, but, I really don't, gives a shit, so to speak. We're in the playoffs. So, but to answer your question, Sal, man, 6 teams. And they put us exactly where they want. Let Duquesne come to us an hour away, and there we go. So that's all I got.
So what stuck out to me in this selection on Sunday was that they viewed the Missouri Valley as not being down, like they were kind of talking about last year. Once I saw South Dakota in the 3 seed, I was like, they are giving the Missouri Valley the top conference slot of the postseason. I am surprised they got 6. I'm very thankful that we got 6 in because of the way that final week fell. You guys know I wasn't feeling great going into Murray State. I wasn't necessarily feeling great coming out of the way that the weekend fell. I was hopeful. Like I said, I think this team is very talented. I think they have a postseason caliber roster. I just, over years past, don't think that the committee really gave us an opportunity to play the ball.
Cyril, I don't know if you were feeling great since the Northern Iowa game.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't think that we play that game 10 times. I think we win 8 out of the 10. And, I wasn't feeling great about the Northern Iowa game because that's an opportunity. And based off of what Kurt and I went through as players and DJ Moss went through as players, is obviously our bracket was much smaller than 24 teams. I think it was 16 teams. I'm probably pretty sure we were team number 17 in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. And so I didn't want those guys to, the motto was leave no doubt this season. And I felt with the Northern Iowa team that depending on how the rest of the season went, we have no doubt that we can be competitive. But in terms of the playoff committee, I had a lot of doubt in how that they were to, pick teams. So once again, very thankful that the Missouri Valley Conference is viewed as strong as that we believe that it is. I think, yes, we have South Dakota State in our bracket. I think North Dakota State has the most room to, or the least amount of room to slip up. They have, let's see, one, two, three, four of the six Missouri Valley teams on that side of the bracket. So I think that's going to be tough. And in terms of playing South Dakota State again, granted, it was a very rough game for us. It is difficult to beat a team twice in a season, straight up. I think the guys are going to be, if we make it that far, I think the guys are going to be a little bit more dialed in and buckled up for that game. The only downside is it's in Brookings, and we don't have the luxury of being at home, which was to our benefit when we did play pretty poorly. So hopefully we learn from that mistake if we get that far in the postseason.
Yeah, I got a couple things that probably stuck out to me. First, I got sent to me on Instagram, so I'll give Elkins a shout out. Shout out CG Elkins, Christopher Gage. Sent me the history of the 2014 bracket. So over the last 9 years, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has had 2 semifinalists 6 out of the last 9 years. So for the final 4 teams, the Missouri Valley Conference over the last 9 years, 6 times we've had 50% of the teams reach the Final Four. So the respect that we kind of talked with Patty at the beginning of the year was definitely earned this year. That being said, I don't know what's everybody's hard on with Southern Illinois. How is Southern Illinois, a team that finished behind us, and if Northern Iowa wins, potentially behind Northern Iowa, maybe the 7th in the Missouri Valley standings, how are they such an easy qualifier into this playoffs? Blows my mind. Maybe I'm biased because we went to the game and we saw our team completely dominate them at home, which was huge. Also, something that happened this weekend that we didn't talk about was if Northern Iowa wins at home, and we've talked about how great UNI is at the Unidome, Northern Iowa probably gets in, whether that's over us or whether that's over Southern Illinois is up to the committee. So I'm thankful that the North Dakota State dynasty is not over because we needed them to win, I think, that last week of the season. Because if Northern Iowa wins, I think the committee was still taking the Bison based on probably where they put the Bison. So massive respect, probably earned from the Bison. Okay, fine, I'll give it to them. Southern Illinois, I don't know where that respect is even coming from. But Coach Kopp, you kind of made me think of one more thing, which is the possibility that we play South Dakota State on the road. You guys all know, like, teams aren't their best week 1, 2, or 3. It is a massive journey. You develop the entire year. And we've talked all year about how we want to get to that standard right now, in South Dakota State's that standard, and how this team hasn't necessarily played well on the road. So if we can host this game, Duquesne played Delaware tough this year. I think that's a game we really need to take seriously this week. Of course, we're going to. Villanova, if we can go play on the road. South Dakota State, if we can go play on the road. It's kind of been our Achilles heel this year is playing to our competition. Probably Cyril say it was number 1, but then, taking our talent and taking this roster on the road and showing what we can truly do. So anxious to see, because if, like you guys said, if you want to beat the champs, you got to beat the champs. And we have those opportunities with this bracket. Also thankful JMU is no longer an FCS school, because looking at Elkin's list right now, JMU is just up there, just like North Dakota State and South Dakota State is. They're a real good program, man.
Yeah, as you guys know, when we're watching the show, the first thing they started off with was the top 8 seeds, which are the teams that get a bye week the first week and get to host the home game the second week. No surprise, South Dakota State was number 1, Montana 2. And then as soon as they announced South Dakota 3, I don't know about you guys, but when they said South Dakota's 3, I knew we were in. I knew if they had enough respect that they were going to put South Dakota #3, the team that, let's be real, of Northern Iowa. I mean, they beat us. We went to South Dakota and we had the ball with a minute left in a tie game. We could have been the team that gone down there and kicked the winning field goal. Instead, it was them. So we were right there with them. And the fact
We
that
were right there with Northern Iowa, Sal. Like, that argument is.
No, we weren't.
I'm going to
We were
fight you
down
on this.
10. We were down 10 with a minute
We were
left.
up
And then
10.
scored.
We never led versus South Dakota.
But we were tied with a minute left and the football was in our hands. That game was tighter.
Sal.
It was. It was. At the end of Northern Iowa, we were down 10 with a minute left. We scored and needed an onside kick to try to come back. South Dakota, we had a chance, much better.
We played much better versus Northern Iowa.
We played much better, but that South Dakota game, the way that we came back was a lot like the previous season. Remember how many times we came back? That was kind of the identity of the team at that time was we have a lull where we're playing offensively. We need to start firing the ball, being more aggressive and scoring quickly, which is what we did. So at that time when we played South Dakota, it was not close, but it was the identity of our team, which was we can get back into any game. I mean, they were calling us the cardiac kids last year.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think Sal, you're on a good track with this, and we all are. We all understand that, but I think Sal's touching on something that we've talked about on the show all year. We went and lost 2 games on the road. As Sal pointed, they made South Dakota #3. I mean, if we had gone there and gotten beat 42-6, maybe we don't get in the playoffs. Maybe they view us as but that's my real quick. I'm sorry to interject, but there you go. There's an example of them looking at us saying they went out on the road to 2 teams, and Northern Iowa was ranked all year long and could have won either game.
And not just us in particular, just when I say the entire conference, the strength of schedule. When you talk about conference strength, you're really just talking about the strength of your schedule because that's who you play as your conference. So if they're saying South Dakota has played such a strong schedule, that being the Missouri Valley, I knew they had the Missouri Valley respect. And then they went down and rattled all the way down and put Furman #7 was another red flag that, wow, they don't respect, even though Mercer and Chattanooga from the conference got in, they don't respect that strength of schedule. And even though, because Furman's been like #3, #2, and I know they lost to Walford as an upset at the end of the year, but that really put a red flag as Missouri Valley is strong because South Dakota is #3. And these other conferences, we don't think they're that good. We're going to put a Villanova #8. We're going to put a Furman #7. So that stuck out to me. As soon as they did the top 8, I knew they had the respect of the Missouri Valley, and I knew we were in as soon as they announced it. But next question, moving on about the playoffs. Who in the playoff field do you feel is kind of an underrated Cinderella to make noise, and who is overrated, whether it's a seeded team or not? Who do you think is in there that doesn't belong or doesn't deserve that bye week? I'm going to kick it off, and even though I've been giving them garbage all year, the thing about North Dakota State is, as you guys know, to go all the way to Frisco, that's 16 games. That's like an NFL regular season, 16. That's a long season. You start to run out of gas in November, and we're asking guys to go through December. That's a different recipe. You can't just practice like you were in September in late December. And a lot of teams have never been that. A lot of programs have never been playing in mid-December, and you got to have a certain strategy of practices and getting ready for the game because your guys are burnt out at that point. And North Dakota State as a program knows how to play in December. They know how to win in December. I think they're going to make noise. I see them obviously rolling Drake. I think they go into Montana State and win. And I think, like Cheryl mentioned earlier, it's hard to beat a team twice. I think they beat South Dakota, and I wouldn't be surprised if North Dakota State, as a non-seed, goes into the semifinals. And as a team that I think is a little bit overrated, I dare I say it, honestly shocked when South Dakota was number 3. I was like, whoa, they're number 3. I think they're kind of overrated. I think they're going to lose their first postseason game. I think that story of South Dakota is over. And Villanova, I know I shouldn't be talking down the opponent will play, but I've heard a lot of podcasts basically say in predictions have Youngstown State beating Duquesne, beating Villanova, and that's kind of just a red flag. Your last 4 in is projected to go on the road and beat one of your top 8 seeds that Villanova may or may not have deserved that seed. So that's my pick there.
Yeah, my pick, Sal, you kind of mentioned a little bit, is Furman. And the reason I would be a little hesitant to pick Furman as kind of a sleeper or a team is they are a top 8 seed. We don't know a lot about Furman. I've never watched them. I've never scouted them. But for some reason, throughout the course of the season, they were a top 5 team. And I know they had a late loss to probably a team that wasn't as good as them. But now they have a chance to reset, right? They reset their goals. We know how bye weeks can be for some teams. And I'm going to kind of talk about that with Villanova when we go to play, should we win this week, when we go to play Villanova, how you can come out of a bye week rusty. I think if you lose, heading into a bye week, it gives you an opportunity to reset your goals, refresh, get back to, we would do a lot of individual periods and get back to technique and fundamentals. Sometimes we do individual periods for 50 minutes or so at a time. Usually that's when the quarterbacks just went and threw balls towards trash cans and stuff, and Cyril would have to do extra reps differently. But I think Furman pulled Chattanooga and Austin Peay. Austin Peay is not what they were when we played them 10, 12 years ago. I think that they're pretty good. A lot of people like Austin Peay, but I think Furman has a good draw. And then they have the nothing to lose game against Montana, where Montana's also going through it too. You have a bye week. You just came off a big rivalry win. You're smacking everybody right now. Do they fall asleep against a team who's been top 5 all year in Furman? So in terms of being a sleeper, a dark horse, or somebody that can make a run, I'm interested to see what the Paladins do.
Yeah, so Sal, I really like your breakdown of North Dakota State being a Cinderella team and just kind of why. And it's kind of funny it's really kind of funny to say North Dakota State is the Cinderella team who's not seeded and's got to go, play on the road. And but the fact of the matter is they are built for December. They know how to practice through December. They know how to play in December. A lot of that roster has been through it. National runners up last year. They want to get back there. They got something to prove. But the way that the bracket fell regionally, I think our Penguins are really set and primed to make things really interesting. And I have like the most overrated, and it's not really in terms of overrated, but who I don't think I would have picked to get in over some of these other teams that were maybe the first 4 out is Gardner Webb. Where are my notes? I had Holy Cross played great football all year and was ranked pretty high. They had lost at Boston College and Army and another team. Eastern Illinois, 8-3 with a win over Illinois State. It's a pretty good resume. And then you have UT Martin, who was 8-3 with a win over Eastern Illinois. And the last one is UC Davis, who won 3 games in a row at the end of the year. Went 7-4, beat Sacramento State, who, beat Stanford, like whatever. I don't think I would have picked Gardner Webb over any of those 4 teams. So I think that I don't really like that pick in there, but that's what I gotta say.
Yeah, it's advantage to go last, so I can hear all of your guys' thoughts and agree with so many of them. I mean, if you're asking me for Cinderella picks, I think Youngstown State's one of those, not just because we're on this show. I think that's why we got in. We played 2 teams that were highly ranked at a time to to the wire, and we got beat by a team that's either been number 1 or 2 in America in Ohio State. And North Dakota State is North Dakota State, right? What they got? I mean, I think we're both kind of built for this. I mean, North Dakota State has just been getting better and better since it was North Dakota that drubbed them, right? You know, was that their last loss at North Dakota? I think I'm just going
to South Dakota State. South Dakota State smacked.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, didn't smack them. I mean, I remember that game with about.
No, they smacked them.
I watched most of that game. I mean, with 9 minutes to go, I mean, it was closer than it ended up. But still, I mean, we know South Dakota State's pretty darn good. But I like North Dakota State. You guys just said it. How do you call North Dakota State a Cinderella team? I mean, they've been pretty damn good over the last decade. So, and I think we're in that mix. I don't necessarily know how much respect we have necessarily around the country, but we're about to go earn it and show what we're about. Quick side topic, Kurt, you mentioned about Furman. You know, there was a time in Jim Tressel's early years where Furman and Georgia Southern were like, those were the teams you had to beat. So Furman's, you hit it. They were highly ranked, and they're going to be athletic as crazy. I think the hype team would be Southern Illinois. I agree. I think Kurt, you mentioned that earlier. I mean, there's a team we beat by 4 touchdowns, right? 31-3. We beat them. We beat the lights out of them, and you know, I don't know what their signature win is, but so what, they're in. But I think they might. I like Kyle, you mentioned. I think Holy Cross, in my opinion, just outside saying, I would have thought Holy Cross gets in over Southern Illinois, but that's not how it shook out. Sal, you've been saying it. That's how much respect the committee had for the Missouri Valley Conference that we got teams in. I mean, it makes you think of how the hell didn't we get in last year? You know, I mean, they go from 3 teams to 6, whatever you have. But you know, Sal, you said I would not be surprised if North Dakota State goes on a scary run, because they're playing pretty good football, and they're literally going to line up and they're going to run the football down your throat. And so are we. So I think we're a team that could really make some noise if, depending on how Tyshawn King is. I hope he's getting better by the hour. So that's how I see kind of those Cinderella and hype teams.
Well, let's talk real quick about our overall expectation for the Penguins. You know, now that we're at the start of the playoffs, where do we see us going? How far do we see us going? You know, what would be a disappointment? What would be considered success? Obviously, winning the whole thing would be success, but if we're short of it, how far should we go? I'm going to kick this off, and I'm going to say anything short of not making it to that quarterfinals would probably be a disappointment. Obviously, beating Duquesne is assumed or highly expected, and it'll be greatly disappointing we lose. Villanova, that's a game that I would think we open with them next year, and we're expected to win that game next year. Therefore, we should beat them when it matters more so. So I could see that. And going to South Dakota State and losing 34-0 would be a disappointment. We need to go in there and be competitive to make it a successful run. And we were touching on it a little earlier in the show, just to kind of flip the tune on you guys. It's weird to say in hindsight, but we're better off losing to them 34-0 rather than beat them. Because could you imagine if we beat South Dakota State in the Ice Castle and then we had to go to their place for the playoffs? They would be ready to rip our heads off for being the team that ruined their perfect season. We're honestly, again, it sounds funny, we're honestly lucky that they blew us out, because they're going to be sleepwalking, thinking this is the team that we own. They're going to be taking us lightly, and that would be a chance to go in there and hopefully upset them. So, again, get to that quarterfinals at South Dakota State and play competitively. And, I mean, we got a chance to win, and if we do, that's the only team on that side of the bracket. If we could get past South Dakota State, we can get to Frisco pretty easily. But again, getting to South Dakota State and playing respectively is my expectations.
Yeah. So I think anything less than a trip to Brookings is a little bit of a disappointment. And I've been harping on, I feel like this committee has disrespected Youngstown State in the past. When we played specifically, I know we had a smaller bracket, but here's the deal: to get that respect this year and to keep that respect, you kind of got to play, like you earned it. Go earn some more, make some noise in the playoffs, and then the committee's gonna be like, Youngstown State, when they get in, they're competitive. And like I said before, fun fact for everyone, the Penguins have made it to the finals, not the semifinals, not the quarterfinals. They have made it to the finals in 50% of the brackets that they have entered. So, I hope we can get, above the 50% mark this year. I think it's going to be a tough task going to Brookings. And Sal, I agree with you that I think that like the shellacking from South Dakota State benefited us and not ruining their perfect season. But I will not contradict, but I'll just kind of play devil's advocate. I think South Dakota State's an extremely experienced team. I don't think they're going to take anyone lightly in the playoffs. They want to repeat. We said it multiple times on the show. They have 19 returning starters from that national championship team. And, if I had one ring, I'd want 2 rings. And I don't think they're going to take anyone coming into their house in the postseason lightly. But I do expect the Penguins to make it to Brookings. I think that they have the team built to go to Brookings. And I think they have a team to be competitive versus South Dakota State, other than what we've shown at home just a couple weeks ago.
Is that me? My next?
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Yep. Similar expectations to you guys. Here's how I expect this weekend to happen is I expect us to come out. Kyle has made some good points that there were some moments where we maybe looked a little flat. I would hope Saturday we come out as fast and as clean as we've been since Ohio State. That's what I mean. We got to take care of, Duquesne first and play like haven't played all year. I mean, this is what this team's wanted. Well, it's here now. We got a home playoff game against Duquesne, and I hope the hell we come out like, man, just on fire and get them and put them down and beat them. And then again, going to Villanova on the road, Sal, we open with them. It's going to be hard. I think beating them would be a heck of an accomplishment, where we were thinking, where are we going to be this year? And that would be a heck of a win. And, Sal, you're right. If we had beaten South Dakota State, we'd be the number 3 seed, in my opinion. We would have replaced South Dakota, and we'd be the 3 seed had we gone 8-3, beating the number 1 team in the country. So, what is South Dakota State's expectations? Man, the pressure's on them. They got to win. They're trying to win another title. You guys know, I mean, they want another ring, and I do expect us to go play out there in Brookings. And hell, we're going to have to be a different football team by then, because when we played them here, they dominated us up front. I mean, they flat dominated us. So if we go play them, we're going to have to play, that kind of magical game you have to play. And when you make a run like this, and we can do that. So, and I also expect out of us a little bit, I expect Montana to be big in these playoffs. The Grizz are good. I mean, right, Sal, you had said they had South Dakota State on the ropes, right?
Montana State, right?
Montana State did? I screwed that up then.
They had South.
Yeah,
but I still,
Montana's the hottest team right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I think the Grizz, I think they're a prime team to have a run. But man, we all, I think, and Kurt's going to go next, but expect us to, man, we got to come out and look like we haven't looked all year long. I mean, we've all talked about, we come out where we go up 7-0, and next thing you know, we kind of take our foot off the gas. We better come out, man, just really fast, and we'll see how it goes. But we all expect us to be in Brookings here in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys, and I think obviously right now that goal is beat Duquesne this week, go on the road, play your best football at Villanova, you play your best football, you play to your identity. I think we'll win at Villanova. And then hopefully, that South Dakota State game is a little bit more of a toss up. It's hard to beat the same team twice in the same year for sure. You see that in the NFL every week. So playing against South Dakota State, I think we'll be a little bit more prepared from not only a coaching perspective, but a player perspective, understanding what we have to play against. But I mean, listening to you guys, this is kind of a question, and I almost shouted it out on Instagram. It was like, what would you define this year as a success to be? But I mean, that's just not a fair question, because these guys, man, they've been up and down all season. They've seen adversity. They've got 2 close road losses, making it to the playoffs. And I don't want to be the sentimental guy of the group, but man, you got to be proud of these boys, man, coming together as a team, fighting, having, talking about Bryce Oliver with 25 touchdowns. I remember one game he had 1 catch for like 7 yards, and it's like you don't hear from him. He's ready to play the next week. CJ Charleston steps up one day, Tom Sack the next, and the O-line's been playing so well in those big run games. It's like if we could just put it all together for these next few games and give ourselves a chance, man, like that's what we really expect. And I know if they go out and lose by a score to South Dakota State and Brookings, like, yes, that's the expectation from this podcast is they play that game the best of their ability and hopefully we'll come out on top. But, and these guys are awesome, man. I'm proud of these guys, and I think that they've had a great, season full of ups and downs, but you get that reset when you're heading off into postseason, and I'm excited for them. So let's go kick some ass, man.
Yeah, real quick, Kurt, I'm glad you pointed that out, because you guys, Sal, you coached for how many years at YSU? Kurt, Kyle, you guys were captains. You beat Pitt. You beat beat Northern Iowa. We had some great wins, and Kyle said the team's goal this year was let there be no doubt, right? There might have been a little bit of doubt, but let's remember we're in the playoffs. Sal led the show off with, hallelujah, man. We're coming to you week 12. We're in the playoffs, and it's hard as hell to get in the playoffs. I don't care if there's 16 teams or 24 in the conference we play in. If we were in some other conference, we'd be an 8. We'd be one of the 8, I would think. So, man, it's hard. And you're right, man. We got to give some kudos to this group of seniors and the underclassmen and our coaches, man. They got us to where we wanted to be, and man, we're sitting here talking about playoffs rather than being a little pissed off right now. And I don't know, we'd be talking about skunks in Florida or something. I don't know what the heck we'd be talking about.
Episode would be done by now. If we weren't in, episode would be done. We'd be off.
That skunks in Florida is podcast after dark, but
there we go. Yeah. Sorry about that. That's pay-per-view.
Well,
pay-per-view.
Before we dive into the Duquesne Dukes, any last comments about the playoffs at large, whether it's about Youngstown State or not?
I just wanted to follow up on Kurt and just saying that, like, these boys have had adversity and have played through it well, not only in a season standpoint, but from a game standpoint. And I feel like that's very important. And I know, Sal, we differ in which game we think that we could have won, whether it's South Dakota or Northern Iowa. The fact of the matter is we did lose those games by combined 6 points, 3 points each. And, those games were back and forth. And we were down by double digits in both games, had opportunities to tie it or win it in both games. And that's just a mindset from our players that they didn't quit. They didn't care what the game was looking like. They were playing hard, and they're going to need to continue to do that in this postseason, because these teams are all here for a reason. And so I feel like we've been battle tested, quote unquote, all year, playing in a tough conference. And like I said, I think this team's talented, and I think they're built for a run.
The one thing I have before I leave it behind us, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, number 2 seed Montana. Talk about a team that was asleep and struggled against a Division II team. It was the defending Division II champs, but talk about a team everyone was questioning in September, and then October they just put it together, and they've gotten better every week. And that's Montana. They are on the way opposite end of the bracket. And to be honest with you guys, I'm actually happy that we're on the side with South Dakota State, a team we're a little familiar with, to make that run to Frisco, and we're able to avoid Montana at least up until Frisco, because Montana is they're pretty hot right now. But
Yeah, they are pretty nasty. And what's Belichick say? It doesn't matter how you start a season; it depends on how you finish the season. And I think that's just the epitome of Montana's season. Is they, like you said, Sal, they're getting better every week, and not only are they getting better, but like leaps and bounds better. They started winning close games, and then they start blowing teams out, and that's kind of scary going into the postseason here. So, like Kurt said, let's see how this bye week affects them. You know, maybe they come out a little lethargic in the first quarter, and they're on the ropes, and they're like, "Oh shoot, what do we do?"
All right. Well, let's transition. The Duquesne Dukes, the Northeast Conference champs, conference record of 6-1 and 7-4 overall. That earned them an automatic bid into the postseason, as the Duquesne Dukes are at the Ice Castle, Youngstown State, on November 25th, a 5 p.m. game. Dan, you could tell me if I'm wrong. I believe Ron Strollo selects the time of that game, and I'm assuming that's because Ohio State plays at noon.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a decision probably between Ron and their AD to an extent. Not that I know that for sure, but you're right, Si. I mean, Ohio State, Michigan is playing at noon. In 2016, we hosted a home playoff game the same day as Ohio State, Michigan back then. We could have played at noon or 7 p.m. And, you know, I don't necessarily agree. Everyone wants to watch the Ohio State, Michigan game, but come to the damn YSU game. But I think they didn't want to compete with a noon kickoff, but I don't think it would have mattered, to be honest with you.
So if you're watching that game, come on out to the Ice Castle after at 5 p.m. You have plenty of time to make it out. The high is 39, the low is 23. It should be a cloudy, overcast day. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have a special guest on that reached out to Dan Kopp, and that was the Las Vegas Raiders assistant coach, who is a Duquesne Duke alum, longtime former assistant coach of the Youngstown State Penguins. He asked to come on the show, but his schedule does not align. Hopefully he'll be on in the coming
next week.
However, Duquesne, just to recap who they are and where they come from, they are right in downtown Pittsburgh, about an hour and 15-minute drive away. So they are right down the street from us. Recapping how their season went, they started off at Edinburgh, blew them out 49-7. Then a couple FBS games. West Virginia blew them out. Coastal Carolina blew them out. And then they got back in the season at Long Island, went out of conference at Delaware, interesting enough, and lost 43-17. Back in conference, they beat Central Connecticut. They beat St. Francis, PA. They beat Sacred Heart. They beat Wagner. And then their only conference loss was against Stonehill as an upset loss, 33-28. And then they beat Merrimack to round off and become conference champions, earn them a bid. Recapping our history against them, Youngstown State has only played them at the Ice Castle, which is where we will be playing them this weekend. We're 5-0 all time, so this will be the 6th Ice Castle game this weekend. First game was in 2013, so we really have not played them at least since we started playing them when I would graduated at least and left. Most recently, we opened against them last season. I don't know if y'all remember that. They actually opened at Florida State in week 0 and then opened up against us in week 1 for our first game. We won handily, 31-14. However, going into the fourth quarter, the score was 17-14. We're only up 3 points going into the fourth quarter. Scary enough, but that is our history against them. Their head coach, Jerry Smith, he is a Duquesne Duke lifer. He's been an assistant there elsewhere, then assistant there, left, then an assistant again, promoted to head coach. He's been the head coach since 2005. As head coach, he's 148 and 104, so he has a winning record. He's actually taken the Dukes to the playoffs 3 times. since he's been there. Last time he was there was 2018. And just to note, he did win the first round. He beat Townsend in the first round. He won the second round. So he's actually 1-3 all time in the postseason. I'm going to kick it off to Curdy, though, on the scouting report he has for the Dukes.
Yeah, so looking at Duquesne defensively, 177 yards in the air every game. They're averaging giving up 172 yards per game on the ground. So clearly hoping to attack their front seven and get the running game established like we always want. Not a team that takes a ball away a lot. Haven't gotten a lot of fumbles. I think they have 9 picks on the year defensively. They are -7 in the turnover margin. Haven't done too much scouting on their personnel, but Davia Gabor leads the team with 3 interceptions, and number 31, Antonio Epps, in the defensive backfield. He leads the team with 67 combined tackles on the season. I watched a little bit of the Delaware game, which was probably the most interesting to me. What I liked about watching Delaware is I feel like we're on the same caliber in terms of program prestige or pedigree, as you might say, with Delaware. But it's early in the season, so you never really know. And you guys know we teams change throughout the season. So going against Delaware on the road in Delaware, they like to play cover 0 and blitz. They were very aggressive early on, so I think we might see that. They don't have anything to lose here, right? They're coming to our stadium. They're playing. They're conference champs. We are not conference champs. They're coming out to play as hard as they can, and they want to shock the world. They want to go out and get this first round win, and it seems like that's what this coach can do. Duquesne had Delaware. They had the lead at Delaware 17-15 with a couple minutes left to go in the first half before their punter hit a 15-yard punt, and then Delaware scored before half, got the ball in the second half, and the next thing you know, they're down a couple scores to Delaware. So Duquesne had Delaware on the ropes late in the first half at Delaware, and Delaware is a playoff team. So this is not a team that we can take lightly. They turn the ball over very well in their wins. If we can protect the ball offensively, I don't think that they can beat us. Talent-wise, they are kind of like the Duquesne, the Robert Morris, the St. Francis's, like we've played in the past. They come out, they give us their best shot. If they feel like they're in the game in the second and third quarter, we're in for it. If we can get ahead by a couple scores, not saying that they just lay down and die, but we kind of just, I don't know, overpower them in some ways, both athletically and both physically. So this defense is pretty well coached. I don't think that they're going to mess up a lot. But if we can establish the run, I like the way that we're going to win by a couple scores here.
DK.
Yeah, I watched the Delaware game. I think it's Kyle, right? Go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I kind of got a lot to say in terms of this whole Duquesne versus YSU history and how we have stacked up in the past. Little history lesson. In 13, YSU or Duquesne was 7-4, and we beat them 17-59, very handed. In 2014, they were 6-6. We beat them 23-34, a little bit of a tighter game. In 2016, we beat them 45-10. They were 8-3 that year. In 2019, they were 6-5. We beat them 34-14. And in 2022, which was our last meeting, we beat them 31-14. A little bit of a down year for them. They were 4-7. They were scheduled to play in 2020. We all know what a dumpster fire 2020 was in terms of just life in general. But I just don't think that this team is going to be built to play 4 quarters of Missouri Valley football. And this is where I'm going to say here's the asterisk to it. We have to play our brand of football. Like Kurt said, if we let these guys hang around, it could get interesting. They could feel like, they could empty the playbook and just try to get to round 2. but they are rushing for an average of 155 yards a game, 217 yards passing, total of 373 yards total. They're led by Darius Parentes, but he's not a great quarterback. He's definitely not the best quarterback this team has seen. He's completing about 51% of his throws. His TDs to interceptions are 21 TDs to 18 interceptions. So there's definitely an opportunity for our defense to get some takeaways here if the quarterback's a little careless with the ball. They got 3 running backs in the backfield that are all kind of in the same ballpark in terms of yards. You got Edward Robinson, Taj Butts, Malik Thomas. You got 3 receivers. DJ Powell has a team high of TDs with 9. Keyshawn Brown and their running back Edward Robinson are tied for second on the team with 7 touchdowns. And then you have Teddy Affle, who has some similar yardage to Keyshawn Brown through the air. In the red zone, they're not great. Or they're okay in the red zone, sorry. 39 visits, 32 scores. 32 or 25 of those 32 scores are touchdowns, but there is some room for to make some plays. Just because they get into the red zone, like say a South Dakota State, doesn't mean they're going to score. So I think our defense has played pretty well in the red zone in the second half of the season. Definitely made some improvements there from the beginning of the year. This team's not great on third down in terms of, talking about Duquesne, 38% conversion rate. That is a far cry from, what is it, close to the 60 or 58% that South Dakota State converts at. So I just think that it's going to be tough for this Duquesne team to play 4 quarters of football with Youngstown State. And like I said early, I want this team to prove that they belonged in this bracket. And that's not taking anything away from the Duquesne seniors. It's just a different brand of football.
DK.
Yeah. First of all, I just got a text a little bit ago from Kyle Kronovich about you were asking about the kickoff time. He said that they give a preferred time to the NCAA. So to answer our question there, thanks to Kyle Kronovich up there in the athletic department. Kyle's a big listener to the show. So thanks for hitting me up, Kyle, with that text to clear up because I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. So thanks for correcting me on that. But, I think there's a couple of things like Kurt said. I watched the Delaware game and, it was 22-17 in the third quarter, Delaware. Then in the fourth quarter, it was 29-17 with about 8 minutes to go. 8 or 9 minutes to go. And then they made a couple of big plays down the field. Delaware did 2 late touchdowns, and they had an interception there. Duquesne threw a pick. So, they were right there on the road against a team that has had some success at our level. I also agree. You guys both mentioned, I think they're going to be really aggressive on defense. I look for that game within the game. I think they're going to look to try and find ways to sack Mitch or pressure him and see if he'll run. And I look at us, our game within the game is we got to run the ball. We do have an advantage. I agree with Kyle. We do have an advantage up front. Let's call it the way it is. So we need to play like that. I go back to the expectation of us to come out and play as hot as we played since Ohio State, honestly. That's how we've got to come out and play. Their quarterback, number 7, is he's one of 30 finalists for the Walter Payton Award. Darius Parentes. He's a good player, that number 7. He's athletic. He moves around. And there's been as much as we've at times put it on them, there's a lot of kids, not kids, but there are a lot of players at Duquesne that are from Cleveland, Akron, Pittsburgh area. They're within an hour and a half of our campus. They don't have any Youngstown guys this year. I looked at their roster. In the past, they've had a Boardman kid or a Poland kid or something like that on the team. And they're going to come in here and, you guys said it. They won their conference. I mean, their expectations are high. They're going to come out here and probably do a couple of things we haven't seen them do and see if they can get us on our heels. But I just hope we come out and, again, come out fast, stick to running the football. We should have an edge on them up front on the offensive and defensive line. I've watched their line play at times good, but I think we're better up front than them. So hopefully we play like that. So again, I think this team is going to come out. Their coach, Sal, alluded to it's Jerry Schmidt, right? He'd been there forever. Heck, we've had a couple assistant coaches back in the day, Carmen Brasillo, who will be on the show next week, and Mauro Mons, who played for the guy. So, and those were good guys and good players. I think that's kind of what they're about. And, I think you guys said if we don't jump out on them like we're capable of, it's the playoffs, man. And, you don't want to let a team hang around too long. So, but they'll be well coached. They'll be disciplined. And I expect them to be aggressive. So maybe we can hit them on some screens and some things that Delaware did against them. So that's all I got.
Like you guys kind of hit on it. They're definitely more of a passing team offensively, at least stat wise, than running. Their strength is in the passing, which is not our defensive strength. So that would be a struggle because the secondary has always been a question mark for us. And you guys pronounce his name much better than I could. So I'm glad y'all took a swing at it. Darius Parentes, the senior quarterback. He's actually 33 in the country in pass efficiency. So he is a good quarterback. Yes, he's thrown a lot of interceptions, but he's a good little quarterback. To put in perspective, Mitch Davidson's number 8 in the country in pass efficiency. So we also have a great quarterback. One thing that really stuck out to me is the Duquesne Dukes are actually number 1 in the country in passing yards per completion at 17.33 yards per completion. So as you guys know, that stat is padded off explosive plays. That's really what it is. It's not like they throw the ball, they don't run 15, 20-yard routes. It's the fact that once they throw it, it usually goes for a 50-yard touchdown pass that pads that stat, and they've had enough of it. So that scouting report and knowing that stat really brings me to our next segment, which is keys to the game and score predictions. And I'll kick it off. It's number 1, the secondary cannot fall asleep even when that quarterback is scrambling around. He's got his eyes down the field. Just by saying that stat, the explosive plays in the air, not so much running, but in the air, that's what's going to kill us. And let's start off ready to go. We all remember the Valpo game. We were kind of sleepwalking, and before you knew it, a terrible Valpo team had us tied, I think, going into halftime, if I remember right. So let's come out ready to go from the first snap. Let's not play from behind because our game is get ahead and time of possession. So let's get ahead. Let's keep the time of possession, and let's control this game from the kickoff until it's 0-0 on the time slot there in the fourth quarter. Duquesne, unfortunately, they're not a bunch of jokes. I think they're going to come out with chip on their shoulder, ready to play. I think it's going to be a close game. I was winning 34-21. But I think it's going to be pretty close. But I think we'll peel away there like we did with Murray State last week and get that extra touchdown, that security field goal to give us a 34-21 win.
Yeah, my key to the game is just to win the trenches. I'm not a defensive line guy, but, offensive line, if Tyshawn King has a little bit of a nick or bruise or something right now, then offensive line, you guys got to take it into your own hands right now and protect Mitch and let the pass game get going, but really establish the run game with Dre. If Dre's going to have 20, 25 carries this game and we're going to hit some big play action plays, then that's the recipe for success for us. So I think we win 38-17.
Yeah, I mean, keys to the game for me start right up front. I mean, the line of scrimmage, if we're the better football team, which I think we are, I think we all feel that way, then we got to dominate up front against this team. I mean, we've played against great competition, so literally control the line of scrimmage where we're running the ball when we want to. I think we got to find the ways to force some turnovers. Sal pointed out that this quarterback's good, but he's going to probably look to make some big plays. We got to find a way to make some to create some turnovers there. And then it's back to what we've all said. This team we got what we wanted. We're in the playoffs now, and we're hosting a first-round game. So let there be no doubt, because that shit's over. We're in the playoffs now. Play like it. You know what I mean? We've talked about it for 11 weeks. We want to be in the playoffs. Well, we're in now. So come out and play like you're capable of. I expect us to do that. We'll be ready to go. I think our seniors, you guys remember Kurt and Kyle. We got two guys on this show that remember that feeling of, so this team has it. Now go play like it. And I got us winning 38-14. That's a score I got us at. And if we can do those things and, play like we're capable of.
Hats off to Duquesne for winning their conference and getting that automatic qualifier. It's a big accomplishment, and it's not easy to do. But with that being said, I just don't think that the NEC is on the same level as the Missouri Valley Conference. Historically, Youngstown State over the 5 games that we've played has averaged 40 points per game and has averaged given up under 16 points per game to the Dukes. My key to the game is going to have that offensive or defense, well, both lines dominating the line of scrimmage. I'm a line guy, but I don't want to, limit the penalties. No pre-snap, no post-snap penalties. Play disciplined football. If something happens in the middle of the play, on to the next one. Minimize the red zone damage if they get in there. I have a score of 45-17 Penguins, and that's partly based off of the historical average and how I kind of seen, their record versus their conference versus what we've been put up against in our schedule.
So again, that's the Duquesne Dukes making the auto bid. They are at Youngstown State, 5 p.m. this Saturday. Let's transition.
Wait, before we transition, we got 2 score predictions.
I'm sorry.
I think our chat fell asleep here. Richard Wolf has the Penguins winning 56-32, and then Moss. I had my score written down before you interjected yours, but it makes me feel a little bit better about mine because Moss has been absolutely red hot with these predictions. He has the Penguins winning 48-17. So, Moss, if the Penguins win 46-17, Price is Right rules on the Y-Town Penguins podcast, I win, and not you. So just so you know that ahead of time.
Why you do my man Moss dirty like that, man? Come on.
Because I gotta let Moss know when I win because we competed day in day out at practice for 4 or 5 years. But those are the only 2 predictions that we got in right now. So maybe at the end of the show there will be some more that sneak in.
Let's transition. Take 2. All right, so we are obviously, instead of picking the conference, we're going to pick the first round of the bracket. For the postseason, I was considering doing straight up picks, but with the automatic bids, I think it'll be more fun to do the spread because some of these are just too obvious that we'll all pick the same teams. But before we dive in, I'm going to turn it over to Searle.
Oh, my bad. I wasn't ready. Hey, once again, special playoff picks are brought to you by Leiden Oil Company. Like all season long, providing all your fuel and lubricant needs across Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and beyond. Quality lubes, competitive prices, exceptional service. Once again, we thank the Leiden family for all their dedication, fueling the Penguin success. I hope to see Paul and Laura there this weekend. I know that Paul heads out of town when he's got to put a coat on, but he does come back into town for a week of hunting and Thanksgiving. So I think he's going to be there this Saturday. So looking forward to seeing them. Haven't seen them for a few weeks.
Nice. Well, we'll go in order. I will go Kurt, then Dan, then Cyril. Of course, pick who you think is going to win the game and who you're taking on the spread. I'll go first on this Saturday. Sacramento State is at North Dakota, 1 p.m. North Dakota is a -5.5 favorite. I think North Dakota, as the season goes on, they seem to be really falling apart here. I'm going Sacramento State money line. I think they're going to win the game, and obviously I'm taking them on the points.
Yeah, Sal, I am with you too. I got Sac State money line. I think North Dakota State, like you said, they've been riding up and down all year. I know they had that big win against the Bison. After that, you don't really know what you're getting with that team. Sacramento State's been a little bit more consistent all year. I think this is the only Valley team I think I have losing round one. So.
Okay. I'm going to take North Dakota to cover. I'm going to stick with the Missouri Valley team here, though. But that's a tough pick. I got to pick opposite you two guys. I mean, you guys are winning every week, so
I got North Dakota covering as well. Yes, they have had an up and down season, but maybe they've kind of learned from that, had some adversity. They did play a tough schedule. It is a Missouri Valley schedule. Sacramento State's coming off of a tough loss to UC Davis. Don't think UC Davis is on a Missouri Valley Conference caliber standard. So I'm going to give the edge to North Dakota, especially it being at home. So I don't know how far that travel is, but I don't think it's very easy to travel from Sacramento to North Dakota.
North Carolina Central is at Richmond, 1 p.m. Richmond is a -5.5 favorite. From all the articles and predictions, there's been a lot of love for North Carolina Central. I don't know why. I just know Richmond plays in the CAA, which is a better conference. So I think Richmond's going to win the game. But from what I've read up on, I'm going to take North Carolina Central on the points. I think this is a field goal type game.
I'll take Richmond, and they'll win by at least a touchdown, win and cover.
I'm going to go upset money line North Carolina Central.
I mean, is it an upset? North Carolina Central is 9-2. Richmond's 8-3. I think these teams are pretty matched competitively. With that being said, give me Richmond to cover.
That was like a Lee Corso pick right there.
Yeah, no.
Lafayette is at Delaware, 2 p.m. Weirdly enough, Lafayette's actually a -3 favorite. And unless I don't know much about them, I have Delaware. I think they're going to wax them. I have Delaware money line to win and cover.
Yeah, I got Delaware as well.
I watched Delaware. Something's up there. Those Vegas people are. So I'm gonna go with Lafayette because I'm not real sure about Delaware, though they're good, but something ain't right there, in the words of Lee Corso. So give me Lafayette. Lafayette.
So what is the rule of thumb? The home field swings 3 points, 3 points in favor, or
2 or 3 points,
or whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
For if this was a home game for Lafayette, you'd say that they are a 6.5 point favorite. I just think Delaware, like Kurt said, is same caliber, same tradition as Youngstown State. I don't think they take kindly of people coming into their house in the playoffs. Give me Delaware money line there.
Yeah, the home team 2 or 3 point swing, and apparently stealing signs is a 10-point swing. That we just learned that a few weeks ago.
Wow.
But Gardner Webb is at Mercer, 3 p.m. Mercer, who's at the playoffs for the first time since they originally had a program back in the World War II eras when they collapsed the program and brought it back. Actually, shout out to my dad. That's where he went to college for a little bit over there in Macon, Georgia. So the Mercer Bears are a -1.5 favorite. I'm going with the Bears, who were one of the first 4 or the last 4 to make it in. I think they got a chip on their shoulder for sure. I think they're going to win and cover.
I'm going with big guy. Give me Mercer.
Yo, now that I know that the original SG went to Mercer, I mean, how the hell can you not pick him? In honor and salute to the real SG down south, give me Mercer all day long. All day long.
We call him OSG, like
Oh,
OG,
the
but
OG.
OSG.
OSG, yo. The OG.
Like I said earlier, I think Gardner Webb kind of maybe got lucky. Wasn't a big fan of them getting in over some of the other teams that I mentioned in terms of the first 4 out. I think those first 4 out were much better resumes than Gardner Webb. I don't know what happened behind closed doors that got him in. Not going to speculate. Give me Mercer to cover.
Nichols is at Southern Illinois at 3 p.m. Fun fact about Nichols, Cyril's friend Phil, his father actually played at Nichols. But Southern Illinois is a
Cyril's
minus
friend.
10. That's right. Southern Illinois is a minus 10.5 favorite. I know we've all been kind of ragging on Southern Illinois, but Nichols really doesn't deserve to be there. They kind of snuck it on the auto bid by upsetting Incarnate Word. So they're kind of they're there because they have to be. So I have Southern Illinois winning and just waxing this team and covering the points.
Yeah, this one's tricky for me, but I'll take Southern Ill. Just keeping it with the Valley. Southern Ill to win and cover.
Give me the Salukis to win and cover. Respect to the Valley. So,
I looked at Southern Ill's schedule again, and they are 7-4, with their only 4 losses being to 4 playoff teams in this bracket. They do have a win over Northern Illinois. Their 4 losses come by North Dakota State, South Dakota, and Youngstown State. Just shows the strength of the Missouri Valley. Give me the Missouri Valley team, Southern Ill, to cover that 10.5 points.
Chattanooga is at Austin P 3 p.m. Austin P is a minus 9.5 favorite. Austin P actually just missed out on being a seed. So they are, I guess that means they're number 9, highly respected. Chattanooga was one of the last 4 teams in. Lucky for them, their athletic director sits on the committee, and it was very debatable that Chattanooga made it in. However, personally, I think Austin P plays in a very weak conference, and Chattanooga plays in a very more competitive conference. Austin P will win the game, but I think Austin P is going to be in a shock. Chattanooga is going to bring their A game. I'm going Chattanooga with the points.
I love hearing you say Chattanooga because it reminds me of Shane. Shane always talks about Chattanooga.
Wow, was that Chattanooga?
Do you guys remember the best player he ever coached there?
Terrell Owens.
Ayo, T.O. Shout out
Yep.
T.O.
Yep.
That being said, I think Austin P is getting a lot of good hype, so I'll take Austin P to win and cover.
Man, I got to go with Shane's one of his great stories. So give me Chattanooga in this game. Give me Chattanooga.
Oh, Chattanooga money line. Geez, what was I going to say? Oh, both teams in Tennessee, I believe. I don't think that is a rough travel for Chattanooga. I think it's going to be similar to the travel for maybe a little bit more than Duquesne has to travel to Youngstown. I think Chattanooga is going to cover. I think Austin P is going to win.
Oh, so no money line. When I was at Chattanooga.
I'll take Chattanooga.
Chattanooga.
Drake at the Fargo Dome, North Dakota State, 3:30 p.m. The Bison of North Dakota State are a minus 14.5 favorite. I think that spread's actually really disrespectful to North Dakota State. This game gets ugly fast. It's going to be 1,000,000-0. Bison will win and cover.
Yeah, what a crazy point spread here for a Cinderella team. Bison, they're going to win by like 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think North Dakota State's they're running hot, man. I think they're pissed off. So, and they're just a better football team. So call it the way it is, and the Fargo Dome will be crazy. So give me NDSU all day long.
Sal, is a $1 million to 0 your alternate line? Like Sal, like
Yes,
DJ tried to
that
give
would be the
us
spread.
$1 million to 0. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, with that being said, give me the Bisons.
And of course, last game of the night is the 5 p.m.er with the Duquesne Dukes coming to the Ice Castle against Youngstown State. The Penguins are a minus 11.5 favorite. And from our score predictions, we have all selected the Penguins to win by 12 points or more. So I took the honor to put everyone's name down for the Youngstown State Penguins to win. Transitioning real quick. This has been a really long podcast, but let's try to lock it up. Cyril, YouTube chat. I know you, so we've been going on forever, kind of died on us, but any quick shout outs or comments or questions left from the YouTube chat?
Yeah. Let me just shout out Mark Quigley here. I hope I said your name right. He says his in-laws' Thanksgiving is Saturday, and he wants to know if he should let them know I'm only thankful for YSU football and to skip the in-laws' Thanksgiving. And I said, in-laws, Saturday, absolutely. Penguins over everything. You better be in Stambaugh Stadium, my friend, and seeing these boys win a home playoff game.
Yeah, in-law Thanksgiving happens every year. We last made our appearance in 2016, so just basic history. It's years. It's a calendar. So yeah,
Well said, Curtis.
Dude. Just go get. You're going to be eating leftovers for the next 4 days, anyways. They're going to send your wife home with a tray of turkey and stuffing, and so just go see them Penguins play some football.
My legal
Wise
counsel
words.
told me to stay away from this, so I'm not touching this. I'm not touching this question. No way.
Wise advice from Kyle Stroh. I appreciate it. Curdy,
Kyle
Instagram.
Kyle Kronovich chimes in. Last thing, above all else, defend the castle. Period.
Boom.
Amen.
Beautiful.
Amen. Curdy.
Yeah.
Any
Just
IG comments?
quick question I asked Instagram followers today. What do we need to know heading into this week? A lot of good responses. Kyle hit us up. Take Duquesne very seriously. We need to get pressure with 4 people because they can pass the ball. That being said, Mets also told us their quarterback's got 18 picks, so feel free to get 2 or 3 of those. Richard Wolf, we are going to win. Let's see. Chase Lemke hitting us up with the stats. We're 5-0 against Duquesne.
Yo.
So shout out Iron Chase 40. And then my favorite's got to be from Eric Phillips for Youngstown better pack the castle. We need a lot of people there. We've been talking about it ever since I came to Youngstown in 2009. It's like, if we can get a playoff game, everyone will show up. If we can get a playoff game, everyone will show up. Well, here is a home playoff game. Let's everybody show up.
Wow, you're going to leave me out there like that? You're not going to,
I'm on my way.
mention me, Kurt?
Oh, yeah. How many beers are we going to drink? How many points we have? Thanks. So, I reposted that one. So, yeah, we'll do that. And I had people say that we're going to have to drink 52 beers. So,
And just a reminder to Curdy, said at the beginning of the show on his Instagram, you can play the bracket challenge. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he actually posted that to the Facebook alumni group as well. So it's on Facebook pending Tom Morello runs that, his approval.
Yeah, whoever the admin is has to approve it first.
Yeah.
So,
So
Hey, whoever has Tom's
athletic,
number, text him, tell him to get it out to the
athletic
alumni.
building, just whether it's Tom or whomever has to approve that. So
Come on, Tom.
Cody's
Help us out.
supposed
My
to be,
goodness. Come on.
could be noted. But
Sal, can I give a quick shout out real quick?
Of course.
We've got a couple of high school coaches that were former Penguins, and at some point we had 4 local teams in the playoffs left last week, or 3, I'm sorry, and they got knocked out. South Range, Struthers, and Ursuline, but 2 guys, former players under Coach Haycock. One also under Coach Wolf for a while. They were both named the Ohio Prep Sports Writers Association All Northeast Inland District Division 5 Coaches of the Year in Division 5. Derek Bush at Lakeview High School and David Rock at South Range High School. So shout out to Derek and David. I mean, those two guys were YSU legends, and their teams play like them, hard-nosed, tough. Struthers, led by the Bayek family, John and Jeff, and they had a great year. And then Ursuline, who was led by Dan Reardon. Danny coached under Coach Trussell and Coach Aycock. So those guys, a little shout out to some Penguin love for some high school, and obviously to Derek and David for being named Coaches of the Year in Division 5. So kudos to those guys, man. Love you guys.
Nice. Rock and Bush, both great people as well. So that you gave them the shout out and the respect they deserve.
Yep, absolutely.
Congrats to those guys.
Congrats.
Well, locking it up and closing it down. Again, we are on Instagram, Whitetown Penguin Podcast. Please follow, comment, send your questions in. If you'd like to be on the show, you could put interest through there as well. And we are always on YouTube Live. We will be back on Tuesday, 8 p.m. If that happens to change to Wednesday or a later time, the Instagram page will update you. Definitely follow that as well. Please like, subscribe, and share. That definitely helps get the word out and gets the Penguin community to interact via this podcast. And of course, you can follow us anywhere podcasts are found. But again, the Youngstown State Penguins are in the playoffs. Congratulations, and you should be as excited as we are. The Duquesne Dukes come to the Ice Castle for round 1 of the playoffs. That's 5 p.m. this Saturday, November 25th. Be there, whether it's going to be high again of 39, a low of 23, and cloudy. But again, I'm your host, Sal Guardo. That's Dan Cupp, that's Kurt Hess, and that's Kyle Searle. And again, this is the Youngstown Penguin Football Podcast. And as always, go Penguins.